Okay. Okay, welcome to First Universalist of New Madison. As is usual, we're having equipment problems today. The phone that I usually use to broadcast on the horizontal won't log into Facebook, but Kenny says his won't either. I'm not sure what's going on. My other phone will. Well, my other phone is logged into Facebook, but it only does vertical because I don't have the software on it. Facebook put a thing on that says you can't broadcast horizontally for some reason, but there's an app that my wife told me about that overrides that, that lets you do that, which is what I have installed on this other phone. So we may have to look at maybe I can get a hold of Emerson. There's got to be like a video camera or like a vlog camera or something that goes and has better sound. Yeah, better than using a cell phone. The sound is our major trouble, so I don't know how. See, I can't plug a microphone into this one. So, all right. Do we have any announcements?
We're looking forward to our El Laredo friends coming to visit us on Palm Sunday, March 29. And so next week we'll be doing a little cleaning around the church here. And otherwise, I don't think there's any other announcements.
Okay. I had daffodils in a vase at home and ready to bring in.
Mine are blooming.
And I walked off without them. So we have tulips, which they're here all the time. Whenever you need them, they're always there for backup. So, all right. Prelude. I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen. You might have noticed the connection between I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen, and St. Patrick's Day, which is coming up this week. And we talked about St. Patrick's Day a couple weeks ago. An interesting promotion or an interesting subterfuge by the Catholic Church and the Irish. Lent is a time of giving up something that you like, particularly if it's something that you favor, like drink or food or whatever else. Hey, you're just in time. Couldn't get Cecil out of bed today.
She didn't have electricity for about 24 hours.
We were out at the lake. We were out for 24 hours. I just had taken my generator up there, hooked it up, and bang, electricity gets back on again.
Mine flickered off and on about 4 or 5 times. Out about 4 seconds for the longest.
Even in Greenville, electricity was off. One of my rental houses, they called and said the electricity was off, and I said, call AES. There's nothing. Flip the breakers and see if the breaker's off, but if the breaker's good, or look at your neighbors and see if theirs is off.
Yeah.
So, and they didn't call back, so they must have got it back on again. So anyway, we will do a little bit of St. Patrick's Day. But anyway, where I was going with St. Patrick's Day is It's a time of Lent when you give up everything, and what's right in the middle of it, St. Patrick's Day, which is a drunken revelry where people eat and drink and just carouse around. It's like they didn't get it all done at Mardi Gras, so they threw another one in later right in the middle. So there's always a way to get around any of these things if you put your mind to it.
I think they're going to have a lot of bonfires this year at UD because it's going to be pretty cold.
Yeah, actually, this,
I think, yeah.
we're basically, it feels like spring with the daffodils and everything else, but I've got pictures practically every year. You get a picture of a daffodil with an inch of snow, all around it. So winter's not over yet. We're closing in on it. All right, chalice lighting, a reminder of what we share by Pat Utrib Lichty. The chalice is a symbol of our faith. Like our faith, it is not magic, nor is it mysterious. We light it as a reminder of what we share as a community and of whom each of us is called to be. When we feel lost in a chaotic world, may the light of our chalice show us the path. When we are afraid of the times we live in, may the light of our chalice give us courage. When we despair at the injustice and cruelty around us, may the light of our chalice recall us to a faithful hope. Our chalice is a symbol of our commitment to each other and to ourselves. We light it today as a gathered community that we may understand more completely and act more boldly and hope more fiercely. That we may understand more completely, act more boldly, and hope more fiercely. In this time, as in no other in our lifetime, these are words that we need to live by. Things are getting out of hand, completely and almost non-understandable as we're approaching now. All right, we're going to talk about, this is one of those things where lightning flashed and I had this idea that I didn't understand something, so I was going to pursue it. And of course we wander all over the field and drop into this little hole for a while and then pop out and drop into another one. So we're going to talk about soul, mind, and body. Mind and body is the primary interest. What is the difference between mind and body? Philosophers call it dualism. It's really too bad Ty couldn't be here because I'm sure he could chip in and we could have quite a conversation. And then when you add religion to it, you throw the soul in, which complicates everything. All right, opening hymn 298. justice thy guide, join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Words to live by, words to follow. Okay, our affirmation, The Richness of Our Differences by Julianne Lepp. We seek our place in the world and the answers to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be opened to unexpected answers. May we be reminded that all beings are whole, sacred, and worthy. Let our hearts be welcoming of multiple truths, not holding hard or fast to closed-mindedness or judgmental thinking. What can we learn from each other in the richness of our differences? May the heart of compassion help us recognize the sacred in each other and bridge differences in these challenging times. May each of us be held in relationship, accountability, and power of beloved community. Blessed be. Joys and concerns. Here's our first question. Are we minds or bodies? Any reports of any problems of anybody that we know? Haven't heard from anybody this week and anybody else. So we keep Lou and Denise and Chaz and Paula and Roberta, all the people that we haven't seen and we know are having some questions. Some severe, some maybe not so severe. But whatever your ailment or your ache, it's important to you, and it needs caring for, no matter what it is. We'll go into Israel, Palestine. You know, on Facebook, when you click on something and watch it, then they just inundate you with more and more of that same thing. And I've watched the things of the Israeli settlers attacking the Palestinian villagers. There's just a tidal wave, and I don't think it's AI. I don't think it's made up. These look like real pictures from a distance that somebody shot with their phone. These poor Palestinians are being abused to the degree that's almost unbelievable. And the government of Israel is countenancing that. There is no, settlers are never held to account for what they do. Even if they kill a Palestinian, there's no punishment for the settlers. Looks more and more like a planned program of elimination, of apartheid, of ethnic cleansing. And now Israel is doing it to Lebanon. I guess we'll light a candle for the two events this week. The one event in Old Dominion University where the disgruntled person shot and killed at least one person. And the other one in Detroit at the temple where, and if you heard the story, the conservative news say it's an Iranian plant and a secret cell or whatever, but if you hear the backstory of that man's brother, his mother, his sister were killed in Lebanon by Israeli bombs just like 2 days before he did this. This was not an act of anti-Semitism, it was an act of revenge. And it's not condonable, it is understandable, I guess is what I'm saying. Some people are so torn by the injustice in the world, and they have no method. He had no method to go out and correct the wrongs that had been done to him and his family. That was the only answer he could see. And of course, in this country, everybody can get a gun. That's the sad part of it.
Tim, let's light a candle also for the courts in our country, whether they be local or state courts or federal courts, appeals courts, district courts, for their role basically in upholding our democracy, preserving our democracy, and stepping up to the plate when needed. Like always, their decisions aren't always what one wants to hear, but nevertheless, they are actually operating, they're functional, our three branches of government, and let's honor them for that.
And the courts are basically our last line of defense, and some of those are still standing strong. But as you see what happens when politics takes over every branch of government, the Supreme Court basically granted the president immunity from anything that he does. Anything that he does as a president, he cannot be held accountable for. That's pretty unbelievable in the United States of America. So we have yet to see anybody actually draw a line in the sand. There have been little glimmers that maybe they realize what is going on. They discounted his tariff, where he wanted to do tariffs at his whim, but he has supposedly found a workaround, and it's going to put the tariffs right back again. So when you're dealing with someone who thinks they have the ultimate power and there are no checks on what they can do, it is really, really difficult to hold them in check. And as we have an election coming up, there are already plans, the government already has plans to surround the voting center with ICE people. They've already shipped all the votes, all the registrations from the state of Ohio, millions of voter registrations, all been shipped to the FBI so they can paw through your social security number, your address, all your vital statistics have been given to the FBI for no reason whatsoever, just looking for an out. It is a scary time, truly a scary time. Ukraine, no improvement there. We've gotten into the silly season. It's like making no sense. The Straits of Hormuz, the president is asking all these other nations who told him not to go to war to help us run ships through the Straits of Hormuz because there is an oil embargo. The price of gas went from like $2.69 here to $3.50, and it'll go higher because still oil is not coming through. So what does the president do? He releases all the sanctions on Russia and allows Russia to sell whatever oil they want. Russia, and he is aware of this and doesn't care, is giving targeting information to the Iranians. Does this make any sense whatsoever? This is kind of how I got into what is the process of thinking? What connects thinking with reality, or is there a connection? And where do these thoughts come from, and how are these thoughts channeled to where they are? That's kind of the reason that I started into this. So we'll see where we end up today. Any others? Oh, I told you the trials and tribulations. I've got like 2 or 3 people I may have to do evictions on, which I really hate to do. One of them is an older couple. Both are handicapped. One of them is practically deaf. I went up to Versailles, to the assisted living place up there, found an opening, took the application down at their house, helped them fill it out, took it back to the Versailles place, talked to the lady there. She's really nice. She's holding the apartment for them. Called them back and said, we have an appointment. I'm not trying to push you, but I want you to just go up and look at this apartment. It's in town, it's close, there are neighbors that can help you if you fall. They can get your groceries delivered. It's a much better place than living out here in the country. Your heat is provided in your apartment rent, and it's subsidized by the government. It's one of those places that's on the list. He refused to go. He said, I'm not leaving here. I said, actually, you are leaving here, and now, as much as it hurts me, my conscience is clear. I have found you a place to live, and I've set everything up for you. If you refuse to leave, I will go to the court and get an eviction notice, and you will be put out on the street. That's the only thing I can do. You can call your son, or you can call relatives, or you can call whoever. You cannot stay in my apartment and not pay rent and expect me to pay your heating bill. I told you I've already filled their propane tank 3 times this year. That's $600 every time that I've put out for them. The house is like 95 degrees in there. I mean, I know people have problems, but I can only do so much, and I think I have done whatever I can do. So we need a candle for mental clarity for them to understand that reality is something you can't avoid forever. It's just, and some of the other people are the same way. They just refuse. I'm paying their electric bills and their gas bills. If you don't pay, you can't stay. I don't care if you got kids. I don't care if your kids are sick. I've done what I can do for the last 6 months. And I'm not an unending well of justice or extensions.
Do you think it's all worth it?
What's that?
For you personally?
Well, this is how we
Sounds
got
like
into
you're
what
using
we're
money
doing.
on all this stuff.
This is what, and I have money. I mean, I've worked hard, my wife has worked
I
hard.
know, but man, it's,
And it's not like money is a problem in our lives, so if I lose $100 here, $100 there, or $1,500 for their
it sounds like
propane
it's a
bill,
lot more than that.
well, it is, but it's not gonna kill me, but it's something I can't just support everybody that needs. And I don't mind helping people that want help and will work for help. If you pay $50 a week or $100 a week, whatever you can do, when you don't pay anything, and I've loaned him money to buy a truck, never gonna see that again. So, but that's what I got into this today, the mind, the body. What is the motivation? Why do people do what they do? I don't do it because I'm a Christian. My wife thinks I'm nuts, and she's a pastor. She says, you can't keep doing this. And I say, you're for charity, you're for the church taking care of people. And she said, not that way. And I understand that. So I don't understand. That's what I'm doing. When I stand up here and look at this and go through all this stuff that doesn't make any sense, I'm trying to understand. It's like everybody else. Your search in life is to make sense of what your life is about. And if you want to share on that journey, you're more than welcome to come along. And maybe it would help some other people on their search in their life. I don't know, it's got to be genetic. My parents were conservative Republicans, but my dad was kind of the same thing. He always had farms, and he would let people live on the farm, and for the rent, they would do the plowing, take care of the cattle, do the chores, that kind of thing. But just like the guys I had working for me, they would screw up. I don't know if you know what foundering is in horses and cattle. If you have cattle on feed, which we always had a feedlot, if you let the feed run out and those cattle get hungry and then they eat over too much, their feet grow out, the hooves keep on growing to like 10 times the normal size, and you can't keep them back. It makes the value of a steer that you sell for meat about half of what it normally would be. These people would let the feed bin run empty, and then a day later they would grind feed and fill it up again, and we would have like 6 cattle out there with feet growing all over the place, and the money from that income was lost. Those people, he didn't kick them out, they were still there. I didn't realize this at the time. It's one of those things where you don't appreciate your parents or sometimes family members or people you work with until they're long gone, and you start going back over this, and you start thinking, you know, that was pretty much, that's an interesting thing that they did, and I respect him, and I kind of wish I would have told him then when he was alive, and probably would have appreciated it, how much I appreciated the kind of person he was. But that's kind of the same genes that had him do it probably is making me do it. I mean, it's not the same reason I have a horse. He always had horses. We went along with him on the track. It's just something I've always wanted to do. So I don't know if that's genetic or what you grow up with. So anyway, here's our children's story.
1948, a freak accident caused an explosion that drove an iron rod straight into the skull of a worker named Phineas Gage. A metal rod, almost as tall as he was, went through his skull, and he didn't die. But the Phineas from before the accident and the one who lived after it didn't seem to have a lot in common personality-wise. The Phineas with no hole in his brain was a proper, hard-working gentleman, and the Phineas with the injured brain was sort of a belligerent jerk. Phineas's brain was changed, and his personality changed too. This misfortune has provided lots of fodder for researchers of psychology and neurology, but the case of Phineas Gage holds lessons for philosophers too. It provides us with some rare hard evidence that a part of us that's historically been thought of as non-physical, our personality, is actually directly affected by what happens to us physically. Which raises the question, where does our mind reside? Now, not a lot of contemporary scientists would be all that surprised that an injury like the one Gage suffered could cause such a rapid change. That's because the dominant view held in much of Western science is what we call reductive physicalism. This is the view that the world is made only of physical stuff, including us. By this logic, everything about me and you could be explained in terms of our bodies, our brains, hormones, and neurotransmitters. So if everything about Phineas's personality could be explained in terms of his brain, it's no shock that a radical change in his brain would bring about a radical change in his personality. The same belief is at work when a psychiatrist prescribes antidepressants to a patient. Change the patient's brain chemistry, change the patient's mood. Now, physicalism may be the default scientific position position, but remember way back in episode 5, our old friend Rene Descartes introduced us to cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. Descartes believed that he could cast doubt on the existence of his body, but not the existence of his mind. The fact that he could doubt one but not the other told him he must be made of two different kinds of stuff. This view, known as substance dualism, says the world is made of both physical stuff and mental stuff. Substance dualists say that minds are a separate non-physical substance that cannot be reduced to or explained in terms of physical stuff like brains. And in this view, some things like God are pure mind, and other things like rocks are pure matter. But humans, well, we're kind of special. We're the only kind of thing that combines both stuffs into one being, both body and mind. What's more, these two substances appear to interact with each other inside of us. This is called interactionism. When I make up my mind to do something, I have the power to compel my body to do as I please, to get up off the couch and make myself a nice PB&J, for example. What's more, my mental states seem to have the ability to affect my physical states, even against my will. You ever notice how many people who are grieving or under a lot of stress, for example, often get physically sick? Likewise, our bodies also appear to be able to affect our minds. Like when you're so hungry, you just can't focus on what your teacher is saying at all, or have a pure physical pleasure, like having a good cuddle with your cat, can pull you out of that mood. Interactionists say that what's going on with these experiences is that our two substances, minds and bodies, are interacting with each other. But if you think about it, this is actually a pretty puzzling proposition. How can a purely mental thing have any effect on a purely physical thing? The puzzle of how minds and bodies can interact with each other is known as the mind-body problem. This is the problem that makes us wonder, how can my body have a separate entity called a mind lurking inside of it, controlling it, and being controlled by it? What would tether my mind to this body in particular? Why couldn't my mind just go running off on its own, or take a dip into other bodies to see what it's like in there?
Okay, he goes on and on. We'll get to this. Everybody recognizes this picture? Mind and body, and you talk about what's going on in the world. Rubio, the president, is giving all of his cabinet members $145 floor shine shoes. He's guessing at what size they wear. This is Marco Rubio, and look at his shoe. It is 2 or 3 sizes too big. And yet, every one of these people is wearing those shoes that were given to them by the president. What does that tell you about the government that we are in? This is like some Middle Eastern or some strangely bizarre, twisted potentate who wants to inflict pain and suffering on his subjects and wants them to know how much in charge he is, how much control he has over them. He can give them a pair of shoes, and my wife said, why don't they just go to Florsheim and buy the right size? He would never know. I don't know. Why don't they go to Florsheim and buy the right size? Because he would never know. Because he does know. He knew, and he makes all the junior high jokes about the size of your foot and the size of your hand and the size of your other body parts. So when he gives them shoes that are too big, he's making fun of their body. Remember, he used to call him Little Marco when he was running for president. He is insulting Marco, and Marco is taking the insults. What explains that? That's what we are looking at today. So where is the mind? Let's do a little experiment. I'll do this again as we go through because I wrote about this. Put your hand out, I don't care, either hand, and think, I want to move my finger. Does your finger move? Then move your finger. Did you think to make your finger move?
No.
I'm sitting here doing this and my finger's moving, but I'm not thinking it. But if I sit and say, move, finger, move, nothing happens. That is the giant mystery. The mind is in control of the body, and we'll kind of go through a little bit of cranial anatomy, different parts of your brain, science, and that's why I like being a universalist, a Unitarian Universalist, is we do use science and we plug science into our understanding of what's going on. Okay, our scripture for this day is Proverbs 23, verse 7. For as he thinks in his heart, so is he. As he thinks in his heart, so is he. Even the early biblical Greeks and Sumerians knew that thinking and feeling were connected. and the Greeks were the ones that started all this mind-body thing. So, okay, one of the most elusive problems of philosophy, and sorry that Ty isn't here to correct me, is the mind-body duality. And if you are religious, we will add in a soul or a spirit. That's something that philosophers don't talk about much. And as I got through, as I did investigations into religious philosophy, soul and spirit are pretty much the same thing as mind. There's a very little differentiation between the two. I don't know how this week I kept coming back to the thought, if these people thought, if they actually thought, they wouldn't do this. Bomb the crap out of Iran in the fear of nuclear weapons we obliterated 6 months ago. We obliterated all the nuclear weapons that Iran had 6 months ago. Now they're telling us within a week they can have a bomb. It's beyond the sphere of understanding. There is no way no rational person could ever say that made sense. And yet we have a person who says it, and everybody else just sits there like those little dogs on your dashboard in your car. Yes, 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 yes. Bomb an elementary school that hadn't had military significance for 10 years. 10 years ago, this base was abandoned by the Iranian Navy. If you saw the pictures on the news or on Facebook, the school where the kids were was part of this naval base 10 years ago. Then they built a wall and separated it from the naval base, and then the Navy abandoned the base because they knew it would be a target. So the problem was the department that checks and rechecks these targets. There used to be a department in the military that went through and looked at all these pictures and said, this target that we identified 10 years ago, just as a matter of course, is still a valid target, or no, it's changed, it's been torn down, or it's been abandoned, or whatever. That unit, what happened to that unit that does that investigation? It was eliminated by DOJ. The people that check targeting, all their people were fired by DOJ. So 165 girls between 7 and 12 and their teachers were killed. And if you look at the stories, they show the Tomahawk missile. First of all, he said the Iranians bombed it themselves. Then he said our allies have missiles like ours and they bombed it. All those are lies. We bombed it intentionally. Think about if you were one of the people on the ship that launched that missile. What did those people feel in their heart, having just killed 165 children on the orders of someone else? That is the illegal order of war that we get into. All right. Anyway, since the Greeks, smart people called philosophers have argued about the existence of mind or spirit. Does the mind, soul, exist separately from the body? You've seen the movies or watched Ghosts on CBS. A near-death experience many times narrates a bright light and a sensation of warmth. Christianity was sold on a life after death, an everlasting life, maybe the reason so many Christians were willing to die for their religion. Hi there.
Hi.
Are you Brittany?
Yeah.
Brittany is somebody I met online, and I invited her to come to church. So we're always welcome to have as many people as we can get to church. So welcome, and nice to have you here. Okay. We're right in the middle, so we'll catch you up. Actually, that's not a problem, and what we do doesn't make a whole lot of sense anyway, so you can come in the middle or at the end. It doesn't make any difference. All right. Since the Greeks were smart people called philosophers, and the Muslims, whose heaven is populated with virgins, go figure. I started with that. The reason so many Christians are willing to die for their religion, because Christianity was sold, one of the major selling points was life after death. If you believe in Christ, you will never die. You will go on to an experience of heaven. The Muslims had a similar experience, only their heaven was filled with virgins, which is pretty bizarre for a religion. But everybody to each his own, I guess. All religions seem to be stuck on this maybe essential part of living, which is dying. Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, Sikhs, even Jews, as a part of the Kabbalah, quote the Torah. If a man, this is something that I've seen multiple times, and I've heard the Hasidic Jews quote this on Facebook. If a man comes to kill you, rise early and kill him first. This is in the Jewish Bible that they follow, not all Jews, but in the fundamentalist Jews that follow the Kabbalah. If a man comes to kill you, rise early and kill him first. How has that been interpreted? How did they change that? Have you seen the other quotes on Facebook or on YouTube where the women, even the older women in Israel say, when they are asked, what about the children, the innocent children who are dying in Palestine and in Lebanon? Those children, this is what they say, those children will grow up to be Muslims and they will kill us. So we must kill them before they grow up. They justify the killing of children because those children will eventually grow up and become adults. Does that remind you of anything? I mean, this is a religion which for centuries, for millennia, has been known for caring for others. And to be twisted in this way is almost not understandable. Okay, we'll dive deeper into Judaism, and that's probably going to be one of our future topics, is Judaism as an understanding. But you already know I am not a seminarian or a philosopher, just an observer disheartened by man's inhumanity to man and women and children. According to the Greeks, the mind can exist independently of the body, yet it interacts with the body to produce actions and sensations, such as willing to be an arm to move or feeling pain when the body is injured. Can your mind move your arm? And that's the experiment we tried. Wiggle your left index finger. Isn't it strange? You can think that thought and nothing happens, and yet there, it just moved. I wasn't consciously thinking about doing it, but I must have wanted to do it, right? Or is there an intermediary? Something between the mind and the cerebellum, the physical part of the brain that starts movement, and the medulla oblongata, that is the primitive brain stem that controls involuntary movement, like breathing or heartbeat. Maybe it's the basal ganglia. That is an interesting part of the brain, identified by science, that moderates emotion and action. It is the gatekeeper that allows some feelings and not others. How does that happen? And what about Tourette's? You saw the thing on the award show where the person there yelled out an insulting word toward the black dignitaries who were receiving the reward. Not involuntary. Tourette's syndrome is an involuntary thing. It's not something they do on purpose, even though they are blamed for it, and the more understanding spreads. And even in this case, when everybody understands what Tourette's is, they still were blaming him. And actually, they weren't really blaming the person that yelled it out. Who were they blaming? They're blaming the TV network because there was a delay of a half an hour before it was broadcast, and they did not beep it out. They didn't bleep it out. That is kind of a question that we all have on that, so I'm not sure what happened there. But Tourette's is a dysfunction where forbidden words are spit out at inopportune moments, like an award show. But we all find it hard to believe that you can't clamp your jaw or put a hand over your mouth. Is it such an instantaneous thing that you can't stop to prevent it? That was my question. Evidently it is, because if they could stop it, they would. It just seems, and once again, that's the delay when you hold your hand out and nothing's moving, and then you're not thinking about moving and it's moving. There's no way you can predict when your finger's going to move to stop it from moving. It's a strange situation. These poor people are constantly in trouble for something they cannot control, and we don't seem to have a pill for it yet. So the separate mind, existing independently, is always in the queue for another body or even an animal form that one is understanding. And let's go to, that's our next picture. That is the cue for another body or another animal form. If you study any of the Indian religions, they seem to be pretty much lined up on that. Jains, Hinduism, Buddhism, they have the theory of reincarnation. Some bodies recycle through another body after another body after another body. The spirit or the soul or the mind is in existence, and it exists separately from the body, and then it is reincarnated, and that's where you see some of these TV shows where people are remembering a past life. That is kind of, if you watch this, my wife loves that show on CBS, Ghosts, and there's a lot of that on ghosts, remembering past lives, and the existence of the spirit without the actual corporal body. So, but if you're in some of these, like the Jains, believe you can come back as different animals or insects, and that's how you work your way up the chain of understanding to nirvana. When you get to a place where you have reached peace with the world, then you're released from this constant treadmill of being born, living, and dying. If you live a bad life and hurt people, you go down the chain to become an animal, a despised animal, or a crustacean, or whatever the lowest form is. And if you perform a good life and do well, you are promoted to the next best life. It's almost like going to heaven and having roads of gold and people playing harps all the time, I guess. So idealism is all of life is a dream, and we do not really exist. We're not really going to discuss, that's the third one. That's kind of like you see these on the movies where people, there's no actual physical existence. Everything exists in the mind. What was the series of movies a few years ago, which I can't think of right now, that did that? And then the people who were released, they were basically kept as energy batteries in little pods, and their life is all lived in an imaginary life. That is one thought of philosophy. So I come to the holistic approach, recognize that mind and body cannot be fully separated. The brain and the nervous system are physical components of the body, and thoughts and emotions have measurable physiological effects. Physical health impacts mental well-being. The placebo effect is real. If one believes the treatment will work, it sometimes does, except in the case of ivermectin. That will kill you. Conversely, hypnotism shows us that believing in something that something that cannot hurt you can work. Surgeries and childbirth have been performed with only a hypnotic suggestion that you will feel no pain, and they do not feel any pain with only a hypnotic suggestion. That is the power of the mind. This then is the value of community, the value of lighting a candle, the whole point of thoughts and prayers, no matter how abused you can face, or no matter how abused they have become. Knowing others has a strong effect. Sometimes you can face another day of tribulations, knowing someone or something is standing along you, standing strong with you. The strength of a religion in a nutshell. You are not alone. And the feeling that no one cares can drain hope from almost anyone. Pastors and chaplains are taught not to give answers to the distressed, but to be present, just there, words of awareness. How many of you have noticed the difference in the funeral, where the pastor harangues the mourners with threats of eternal damnation and hopes of salvation, versus, for example, last week's excerpt by President Obama at Jesse Jackson's celebration of life. Jesse's life was dedicated to being with those in distress, those threatened, those who were downtrodden, those who were abused. If he were here today, he would say, ice out. Ice out. Mind is the experience of a person has of himself or others. Thoughts, emotions, memories, desires, beliefs, sensations, even consciousness itself. Science can best locate these experiences in the body, not just in the brain, where we first look for the biological basis of the mind, but distributed throughout the body. For example, hormones circulating through the body shape our thoughts and emotions. Testosterone makes us more competitive and self-focused. Adrenaline makes us anxious or energized. Don't get me started on sugar and caffeine in children. The gut has its own neurotransmitters that respond to and remember experiences, providing a physiological basis for intuition and gut feelings. Even the immune system acts as an extension of the mind, responding to psychological stress and influencing your mood. The brain uses what is happening with your posture, your breathing, your muscles to understand your emotional state and self-image. Palm sweating, shallow, fast breaths, rapid eye movements can bring the onset of a panic attack. Was it the thoughts or the shortness of breath that triggered flight? Hard to tell, but meditation, the ability to slow down breathing and heart rate by emptying the mind of intrusive thoughts, can have some spectacular effects. The yogis can basically slow their heartbeat almost down to nothing. They can slow their breathing down. They can exist in a place almost without air just by controlling their bodily functions by the mind. Just because it may be rooted in the body doesn't make falling in love less meaningful, art less creative, or the mind less fascinating. Loneliness increases your risk of heart disease, or how brain injuries transform personalities. We can also explore how mind-body practices like yoga can change your mood, or why working out improves your memory. If any of you have studied, it's a long-known trick that if you walk or pace or do routine rhythmic movements, your memory of whatever you're studying will be retained better. My wife swears by that, and she learned to speak Greek, so I'll take her word for it. We can investigate the human experience while also trying to relieve suffering. Can you make your finger move? Can you stop it from moving? Who is in control? God, your hormones, the way you were treated as a child? Something to think about. Comments? Questions? Too much? Not enough?
Neurophysiology, neurology, all of those things, philosophy, all of them are so interconnected, and they're also very complex, and sometimes it can be overwhelming when you think of them all together. Just aside, the neurology part, if you think about it, electrical currents in very, very tiny, ultra tiny amounts flowing along nerves. They generate energy, and that energy comes off of us, even though it's hard to measure. EEGs measure it very well, but they're very sensitive instruments. I guess where I'm going with all this is the title that you have is exactly so apt, but it probably take us 20 years and maybe PhDs in all those areas to truly come to grasp it. And if you want a good overview and an entertaining as well, this is not a paid endorsement, but Dan Brown, who wrote Da Vinci Code, has just come out with a new one, Secrets of Secrets, and it all wraps together in about 600 pages. Neurophysiology, thinking, mind, consciousness, and what happens to us after death, all in a thriller novel, so you might find that interesting.
Definitely, I love the Da Vinci Code.
You'll love this one.
The intricacies. And this is what I want to encourage people and emphasize, that you don't have to be a doctorate, you don't have to be an Einstein of scholar. Whatever your level of understanding, it can always be increased. Not trying is the crime. Not trying is the problem that we have. And that's where, and we'll get into this, the motivation of some of the people, about 30% of the population, that believes whatever they are told, and if you try and tell them by facts, facts have no impression on them. Facts mean nothing to them. If you try and tell them something factual, they will just recite all the talking points over and over again. Their minds are closed. We've talked about that before, and we'll talk about it again. There have been some really interesting publications on how fascism rises and what the connection is between fascism in the 30s and fascism today. That may be actually what we talk about next week. I apologize for those who don't want to get too political in church, but if you don't want to get political in church, go to some other church, basically. And you might be surprised at how much politics you get in the fundamentalist churches. It's just a politics that you may not understand or you may not be aware of. More mind control. All right, Anything else? All right, it's time for our donation. If you have anything to give and can share, please put it in the bowl. And if you need anything, if you're watching, we send to Facebook. We hear anything from 5 people watch to 100 people are on the thing. Nobody says anything, so I have no idea how many there. Phil, if he's watching, we appreciate you watching, and Phil doesn't communicate with us. But anybody that wants to contribute can slip an envelope under the door or find some way to get it to Mike or me. We don't need a lot. There's hardly any attendees, but we have the money that has been donated and the money that we are donating as we're here pays for the electric bill and the gas bill, even when it's like zero out. That was quite a gas bill last month. Okay, we're going to hear When Irish Eyes Are Smiling. Make channels for the streams of love. Extinguishing the chalice. Oh, I forgot, in Joys and Concerns, another one of my renters, she's living with one of the guy who actually is renting the house, and he wants her out, but she's got some medical problems. The doctor has prescribed for her an antibiotic, which is like $11 a pill, $11 a day. Her insurance company won't pay for it. She's asking people to contribute money to pay for her pills. I told her, give me the doctor's name and the phone number, and I will call the doctor's office, because he either needs to prescribe an affordable medicine that the insurance company will provide, or he needs to write a letter to the insurance company and say she needs this. The way we subsidize the medical system in this country is not to go to your church or your landlord and ask for money, which you're never going to pay back. But there are ways around that. There are ways to combat that. You either get a different prescription or you get the doctor to write a letter. You cannot just give up to what the insurance companies want to do. So that's a candle for her. Okay. Extinguishing the chalice, a blessing of darkness and light. Blessed is the dark in which our dreams stir and are revealed. Blessed is the dark of earth where seeds come to life. Blessed are the depths of the ocean where no light shimmers, the womb of all earthly life. Blessed is the light into which we awake, the light that sparkles on the waters, that calls the tree forth from the seed and calls the shadow forth from the tree. Blessed are we as we move through the darkness and through light. Our postlude is Londonderry Air, perfect for St. Patrick's Day.
What does the sign say up there?
Okay, the sign says, I'm a fan of Guinness, and I love Guinness ads. This is one of the many Guinness ads, Guinness for strength. The sign says, toll bridge. The owner is reading the cars and horses so much, drawn vehicles, horse-drawn vehicles so much, hand-drawn vehicles are free. So, Chief Irishman is going to pull his cart for free, and only with the strength that Guinness gives him. And there are, if you like those, there's 100 Guinness ads like this that are just hilarious. They've been going on for years.
Yep.
And this is my spiritual horses, spiritual, the Indian in the back. But when I found the Guinness thing, I just couldn't pass that up. So. All right, we'll leave our one candle lit for those of us who cannot be here. If there are any communications from them, let us know how you're doing. We would appreciate it. And for those who can't voice or aren't even aware maybe of the problems in their lives, we have a candle lit for you. All right, donuts and coffee.
I just drank my coffee to church.
There's a coffee back there. It's hot, though. It's not iced.
I had to get one because I couldn't, get with it. I needed caffeine.
Some people need the caffeine. Yep, there's no doubt about it.
I'm not really a big coffee drinker though. sometimes I need to get going